The art department really was a sort of microcosm of the whole film. It's a very international art department. And the whole language thing, you know, wherever you went, you could hear different tongues.
There were British, American, Spanish, Mexican, Italian. There was a real hodgepodge of nationalities involved. It really was an international production.
Amazingly, it worked. It may sound daunting. You think, how are we going to communicate with everybody? But, of course, for us, the communication is done through the drawing board. If you put the right amount of information onto a drawing, you get few questions because it's there. It's communicating what you want done. The way it breaks down, obviously, you start off, you've got the script and your director sits down, David Lynch, sits down with the designer, Tony Masters, and they brainstorm. Unusually on this show, they'd had quite a lengthy time working on the designs. A colossal number of sketches in development. I think they just wanted to go through ideas and fast, because things happen. When you sketch fast, things happen, happy accidents. What's that? What have you just done there? I like that bit. Oh, that's a smudge. Well, let's do it. And so they went through many different stages, worm design, weapon design, set design. Every single sketch was developed. I mean, David pushed the frontier. He pushed every design, every strange shape and thing. There were all sorts of really super things came out of those brainstorming sessions.
What was fun working with David is he's not simply a filmmaker. He's a fine artist. He thought in visual terms the whole time, and he could draw what he wanted. So talking to him about a design or getting an idea from him wasn't talking to a director so much, it was talking to simply a fellow artist, talking in terms of paint and shapes and colors and design. And so he brought a lot to the film in that respect. It made it fun to work with him, and I think it generated a lot of the success the film had visually.
David always used to carry a little thing of coloured pens, you know, the primary colour is black, and he used to often draw on napkins in restaurants. I mean, he loved all the mosaic work and the geometrics and little squares and triangles.
He was forever coming up with little scraps of paper with some strange little design on it, most of which looked more like just two-dimensional abstract drawings rather than an actual prop or something. You had to kind of sit back and squint a little bit and realize what this was, or how it would transform itself into some three-dimensional thing you could hold on to or use.
Really, he plays a lot with geometric shapes. You know, I mean, in some of the works you can feel that. You know, especially in the Harkonnen. You know, it's more round and bulky shapes, but geometry as well. You know, circles, spheres, cylinders.
He would design little patterns and gadgets and strange stuff, and my father would be working on a design and he'd say, wouldn't it be great if we had a little zigzag design on the wall? And it's like, okay. And David was very keen not to be science fiction-y. He wanted everything to be very, very functional.
David and Tony they didn't want to do a science fiction movie. I mean, everything that was kind of rooted in a tradition that we created, you know, so there was an architectural language, there were architectural precedents, but it was something that we kind of, as we went along, developed a language for our individual planets and things like that.
The main direction anybody got for what anything looked like in the film was that the different worlds, you know, the world of Arrakis, the world of Caladan, the world of Giedi Prime, were distinct worlds, and each one had its own very specific look, which I think was one of the most important things about the design of the film. I've seen very few, if any, science fiction films where this much attention has been put onto the individual and separate cultures of worlds. We pay a lot of attention to giving these designs history.
When I designed the props, even though it's something wholly imaginative, made up out of whole cloth, I still tried to picture what it did, how it did it, who built it, all this sort of thing. Just like the family portraits that are seen in the distant background in the Castle Caladan. You see them just briefly, but it instantly gives history to the whole family, to the castle and everything.
There was a reason for Caladan looking the way it did. You know, it was a forested planet with oceans everywhere. It was very agrarian, so everything was made of wood. because he used the natural materials. Had the same kind of thinking went through for each planet. The idea was if you picked up a prop and looked at it, you could tell from looking at it what planet it came from. And if you couldn't tell, then something was wrong with it, it was redesigned.
You can certainly see with the ornithopters, they changed dramatically. They started out very much like insects. The Harkonnen ornithopter still has a little bit of that. It still looks a bit like a bee, a double-bodied bumblebee. The Atreides ornithopter was more like a dragonfly version of a helicopter to begin with, and that was one that David really pushed on. He had a few ideas. He wanted the ornithopter to look like it had function and it could survive the planet for which it was built. The Spice Harvester, again, you can see the development of that. I mean, it's like a big beetle. It's like a scarab in the desert. Then you get the carriel ships that come and pick it up, and that's a big wedge. And the highliners, which are cylinders, very simple shapes, yet highly detailed when you get close to them. Most of the design work, set design work, was done in Los Angeles with Tony and David. It would be visualized by Tony. He would then work out a little plan and elevation at 1/4 inch or 1 to 50 and hand that over to the draftsman. We would take that away, start to draw it up architecturally. In the meantime, he'd get his paints out and he'd do a painting. But we would get the pencil sketches.
With his sketches, he just gave us the key of how big would be that machines. After that, we work out a scale, what is the real size. Then we check with him, obviously, this is going to be 2 kilometers long, 3 kilometers wide. Do you think it's enough? Yes, no, they are okay.
We work up working plans and elevations that the construction department could use to build the sets from. The sets were constructed using real tile, real wood, embossed finishes. The Great Hall felt as though it were real.
The floors, the mosaics, the tiles, I mean, it was all done for real. I mean, we put down those floors and we tiled the walls, and it was extraordinary looking.
A lot of detail. Sometimes it didn't always come over on film, but if you were there, the sets were beautiful.
You never know what the camera's going to end up looking at. So there's always a colossal amount of work that perhaps goes unseen. Our job is to allow the audience to accept where they are and to get an idea of the geography of where they are. If you come out of the film understanding where you've been without questioning it, then we've done our job properly.
The most exciting aspect is always seeing the fruits of your labours, which is no more than pencil lines on a piece of paper, come to fruition. That's always exciting. I
think it's one of the moments really more happy, because you are creating something from, in a white paper. You know that this thing that you are drawing very, very soon will be up and used and will be in the film forever.
I think however you fought Dune as a film, just in my own world of art direction and set decorating, I think the visual richness is something that was faultless in a way, and David's and Tony Mars's vision for the film was absolutely superb.
Okay, stay with me as I have some cool behind-the-scenes trivia. Stop motion has featured prominently in famous science fiction films. 2 of the RoboCop movies feature the stop motion technique at work, and the finale of the first Terminator film was done with stop motion. Now, do you like my shirt? You can get one for yourself in the shop under this video, and remember to click here below to subscribe for more great content.